Let's talk about the best speaker of the year for 2024. I have a best stand mount speaker of the year and a best floor standing speaker of the year. So it is awards time. Let's get into it. Hi and welcome. I'm Hunter Gray, and this is Hunter-Gray-LUV-Music. It's important to me that my music sounds beautiful when I play it. So that's why we are here talking about hi-fi gear, because your hi-fi gear and my hi-fi gear helps or can hurt how the music we love sounds. So slow down for a few minutes and enjoy while we have a chat about the best speakers of the year. We're going to start with the Floorstander of the year 2024, the Zoo Audio Dirty Weekend 6 bass model, only $1,600 a pair. Quick specs. The base model Dirty Weekend 6 is $1,599. If you upgrade to the Superfly, it costs $2,100, and the Supreme version of the Dirty Weekend 6 costs $2,500. They do factory burn-in for you. The base model gets 100 hours of factory burn-in. The Superfly gets 200 hours, and the Supreme version gets 300 hours. Now, according to the Zoo website, factory burn-in consists of 50% moderate intensity and 50% extreme intensity, full bandwidth, and hard-hitting music. Want to comment briefly on the factory burn-in. Most speaker manufacturers tell you to burn in their speakers for a certain period of time, 50 hours, 100 hours, something like that. They will recommend to you, but not all of them. In fact, most of them do not do the burn-in for you at the factory. You know, one other speaker manufacturer besides Zoo that does the burn-in at the factory for you? It is Wilson Audio. Wilson Audio is probably in the top 3 most respected speaker manufacturers in the world, and all of their drivers, they burn them in at the factory before they ever are delivered to their customers. So using some due diligence by proxy, if that's the approach to burn in that Wilson Audio takes, they believe it is that important that they do the burn in for their customers. I love that, but they're much more expensive. Zoo Audio does the same thing. They do the burn in of all of their speakers for you at the factory before they ship. $1,600 Dirty Weekend 6 delivers when you unbox, has had 100 hours of burn in by Zoo Audio at the factory. To me, that speaks to the fact that Zoo Audio is really a high-end boutique hi-fi manufacturer. I love that. So these are a 2-way floor standing speaker. This is a 10-inch paper cone full range driver, which handles from 30 hertz to 12,000 hertz. And that super tweeter inside that aluminum waveguide handles from 12,000 hertz to 22,000 hertz. Another thing that makes these speakers special, in my opinion, there's no crossover network. There is an acoustic crossover point between the full range driver and the tweeter at 12,000 hertz. Quoting from the Zoo Audio website, having the vast majority of the sound field, 90%, emanating from the full range driver makes for a very cohesive and unified wavefront. That reminds me of my KEF LS50 Meta with their coaxial speaker design. It's very similar in that you do not have to be sitting directly on axis to these speakers, just like the LS50 Metas. You can be moving around the listening room off axis, and the audio that you hear is not disrupted by that. You do not have to be sitting at the focal point at the top of your triangle in your listening position to get the beautiful sound from these Dirty Weekend 6. And that's something else that I like. Now, there is no crossover network for the full range driver. The amp is coupled directly to the 10-inch full range driver. However, the Super Tweeter does have a high pass network single element monopole. Although you need to jump up to the Supreme version to get the Jupiter copper capacitor. But I love the fact that there is no crossover network, no filter components on the full range driver. The crossover point is an acoustic crossover point at 12,000 hertz and only a single capacitor for the high pass filter on the Super Tweeter. I think that is unusual, and I love that purity of eliminating the crossover network and the ability to couple directly your amp to that 10-inch full range driver. Here's another spec about the Zoo Audio Dirty Weekend 6 that is a little bit different. These are 12 ohm speaker with a minimum ohm of 8. So they dip down to 8 ohms, but it's listed as a spec of 12 ohms. That's, again, I like the character. Here's a really important combo of specs. These are 95 dB sensitive, and they have a frequency response from 30 hertz to 22,000 hertz. Quick comment on high efficiency versus bass reach and extension. You may be aware of what's referred to as the 3 dB rule. For each 3 dB increase in efficiency, it costs you 1 octave of bass extension. And this is the compromise situation that speaker designers and engineers are faced with. In a perfect world, you want a speaker that's as high in efficiency as it can be with as full and deep of a bass extension reach as it can be. But you're dealing with some engineering challenges there. The fact that the Zoo Dirty Weekend 6 is 95 dB efficient and reaches down to 30 hertz, that's special. Many of you may have experience with Klipsch speakers. Klipsch are known for their horn-loaded tweeters and mid-range drivers, but they are not known for their bass. Even their $3,200 Heresy 4 only reaches 48 hertz. And their $5,000 Forte 4s only reach down to 38 hertz. So for me, I love the fact that the Zoo Dirty Weekend 6 are 95 dB efficient, and they have a bass extension reach down to 30 hertz. That is a special combo. And that reach bass extension down to 30 hertz means, in my opinion, no sub is needed. Unless you're really someone, your library is dominated by EDM or techno or electronica or maybe hip hop that has a lot of electronic vibration in the 20 to 30 hertz range. For music, these do not require a sub. So the value prop on the Zoo Dirty Weekend 6 at $1,600 for the base model with no sub required. Wow. This really makes these rare and special, in my opinion. Plus, they sound amazing. Quick story for you. 3 times now over the past 2 months, I have asked my 30-year-old son, who got his bachelor's degree in music and is a drummer and a percussionist, but he's not an audiophile, as most musicians are not. I asked him to come sit with me in the living room, and he couldn't tell what speakers were playing. And I A/B played the same test track for him on the Zoo Dirty Weekend 6 and 3 various other speakers, both Floorstanders and Standmounts. And these were 3 different times, like I said, over about 2-month period. And all 3 times, the sound that he said he liked better was coming from the Zoo Dirty Weekend 6. Anecdotal, yes, and yet interesting, I think. One other point to highlight, which I think underlines the boutique high-end nature of Zoo Audio, is the material builds that you can select and the finish options. These are all made with North American composite wood. They can be skinned with real wood veneer or an epoxy, as on my black satin version that you see here that I am very happy with. These weigh in at 65 pounds. They are very stout. Dimensions, they are 1 foot by 1 foot square and 3 feet high. Again, the North American made composite wood in either real wood veneer or epoxy. There are 12 available finishes and wood options, plus custom finishes are available. This, as I said, really is a boutique high-end hi-fi manufacturer based out of Ogden, Utah. While they typically have a small variety of speakers on hand ready to ship, they primarily build to order, and therefore they provide you with some build wait time estimates on their ordering page. So for instance, if you're ordering the Superfly, you have to add 1 week wait time. If you're ordering the Supreme, 2 week additional wait time, primarily or probably due to the added burn-in time on those upgrades. And certain wood or finish options also add to the build time. For instance, add 3 weeks for my favorite, the Electric Blue Hickory. I think if I were ordering the Dirty Weekend 6, I'd order the Supreme with the Electric Blue Hickory finish. Yum. That would be a not only beautiful sounding speaker, that would be a conversation piece and a focal point piece in your living room. Okay, another unusual and feature that Zoo Audio does, and I think is important and I really value, what they call precision matching of their speaker pairs. I didn't completely understand from their descriptions on the website, so I emailed Sean Casey, and I'm going to read back to you what he replied to me in my question about the quote-unquote precision matching. Quote, the precision matching refers to every single part in a pair. The full range driver and the tweeters are matched against amplitude response and impulse response. We internally grade the pair matching, but generally it is within 0.2 dB net deviation within the target bandwidth. While also referencing the tone quote unquote print trace, 0.5 dB net deference would be a hard fail. That was in reference to my email where I suggested or asked, was their pair matching to like 0.5 dB or 1 dB, or where was it exactly? So he said, no, 0.5 dB net deference would be a hard fail. Their standard is 0.2 dB in their pair matching for both drivers. He continues, capacitors are also matched in any other component if used. So for example, cable harnesses are cut from the same batch of cable for any given pair. Even the cabinets are matched. They are cut from the same sheet of plywood. Burn-in is also done in for the same duration on the same amp channel and with the same program material. So think about that. That sort of OCD level of precision pair matching in stereo pairs. I think I can hear that because I remember hearing Aaron on Aaron's Audio Corner talk about the KEF LS50 and their excellent imaging in the soundstage. And he thought he attributed that to when he did frequency responses of each of the speakers individually on the LS50 Metas. He was surprised at how closely the frequency response graphs of the two individual speakers matched on the KEF LS50 Metas. And he was attributing that close pairing of the frequency responses to the sharp and precise imaging that the LS50s are known for. So I can't, know this to be true, but I hear crisp, precise imaging inside the soundstage. And so my suspicion is that the lengths to which Zoo Audio goes to precision match their stereo pairs, I think I'm hearing that in their ability to image in the sound. So I really appreciate that. Quick note on speaker setup. In my living room, I found that I like to just point these in at me, so I can't quite see the inside sidewall, and that just gives me a very nice phantom center image. Also note that I positioned these 9 inches from the back wall, and they were 7.5 feet wide apart. And even though these have a rear bottom port, it sounded great. The website for Zoo Audio says, quote, you can place the DW6 as close as 2 inches from the back wall. And based on how close I had them, I think, in my opinion, that is accurate. Real quick, I just want to say, I'd like to ask for your support for the channel. If you're enjoying this channel, I'd like to ask you to subscribe. That would really mean a lot to me. If you're able to, please support the channel by joining my Patreon. Please click the Patreon link in the description down below. And I also want to make you aware that some but not all of the links in the description below are affiliate links. This channel does get a small commission from that, but that does not cost you at all. So that's your no-cost way to support the channel. I'd like to get to know you personally when you join my Patreon. That would be awesome. I could get to know a little bit about your system at home, what your in-game system looks like, and what you're considering upgrading. So thank you again for your support for this channel. Now, as far as my listening comments and details and how these sound for my A/B comparison to other speakers, I've put a link in the description to my full review of the Zoo Dirty Weekend 6, where I compare them to the Klipsch RP8000F Floorstanders and the Sonus Faber Lumina 5 tower speakers. But to summarize, what makes these Zoo Dirty Weekend 6 base model Floorstanders so special, and thus my best floor standing speakers of the year 2024, 5 quick points. The combo of high efficiency 95 dB and a bass reach down to 30 hertz, as I said, compare that to Klipsch at much higher prices. 2, combo of base model price of $1,600 and no need for a subwoofer, just a fantastic value prop. 3rd, purity and simplicity of eliminating the crossover network and the ability to couple your amp directly to that 10-inch full range driver. When I combine these Dirty Weekend 6 with no crossover network to my single-ended triode 300B tube amp, the purity, I just love that combo. It sounds fantastic. 4, the value that I place in what I hear from what Zoo calls their precision matched in stereo pairs. I hear a better, crisper imaging inside the soundstage. That minimum 100 hours, well, 5, the minimum 100-hour break-in done by Zoo Audio at the factory. Zoo doesn't put it on you or use that as an excuse. They have done the factory burn-in for you. makes your 45-day return window even more valuable, but I doubt you'll need that return window. Final thought on the Dirty Weekend 6 is my Floorstander Best Speaker of the Year 2024. I had a 2003 Audi RS6 with a V8 twin turbo 500 horsepower engine with 450 foot-pounds of torque that was pretty amazing. But then in 2008, Audi came out with an A8, their largest four-door sedan, but it had a naturally aspirated V10 500 horsepower engine that was basically straight from their Lamborghini Gallardo. And I once got a chance to drive that. And the noise that that engine made, it was an event. I think these $1,600 Zoo Audio Dirty Weekend 6 base model are that Audi A8 with the Lambo naturally aspirated V10 engine. If I were putting my $1,600 down on a pair of speakers right now, it would be on these speakers, hands down. They are the speakers of the year 2024. Okay, hard pivot. Next award, the Standmount Speaker of the Year 2024, the Elac Debut 3.0 DB63 stand mounts. Quick specs. The Elac Debut 3.0 DB63 are just $450 a pair. They're two-way stand mounts, 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter, 6.5-inch woofer. Interestingly, they are 6 ohms. dB sensitivity is 87 dB, and they have a frequency response range of 42 hertz to 38,000 hertz. I love this point. The crossover frequency is at 2,000 hertz, which is low for typical crossover frequency on two-way speakers. And I like that because it takes a lot of that weight off of the 6.5-inch woofer. And I like a lower crossover frequency. It puts it on the tweeter. And I think that is partly responsible for that excellent, full, satisfying bass that these speakers have. They weigh in at 17.3 pounds. They're really sturdy and substantial. They're physically bigger than I had expected. They're basically 13 inches high and 8 inches wide and a foot deep. And they're a great example of the difference between low cost and cheap, because these are low cost at $450, but they are not cheap. They're not cheap in their build quality or in their sound. Quick note, I am a huge fan of Crutchfield, and they give you a 60-day in-home trial period, which I highly value because you just get a chance to listen for yourself in your own space with your own music. And so if you're skeptical about a $450 speaker, order them from Crutchfield, but I don't think you'll need that return policy. These will surprise you and live up to what you need. Quickly on speaker setup, these were easy to set up to get a nice phantom center image. I settled on them just barely toed in towards me very slightly. I positioned them 9 inches from the back wall and 8 feet wide apart. I didn't find that changing their positioning really changed the soundstage that they were throwing that much. It was good enough, but the soundstage really didn't wow me. It was their tonality that really took my breath away. Excuse me. Look, I have not only done a full review of these Elacs on their own, I have also made them the focal point of a review on an amazing $750 badass bedroom hi-fi system, as well as the speakers I chose in my $1,250 kick-ass audiophile level hi-fi system video. So links to all 3 of those videos are down in the description below, where you can hear much more detail of my listening thoughts and evaluation on these Elac Debut 3.0 speakers. I'm just going to say here, the treble is always smooth and never harsh, and with excellent tonality. And excellent tonality is the theme of these speakers. Vocals sound great, and the bass is just so full and rich and satisfying. They do lean slightly on the warm side of neutral in a way that I really enjoyed listening to. What about the bass reach and extension? I can clearly hear a 35 hertz test tone on these speakers. Now, their specs from Elac say the bass extends to 42 hertz, but I can clearly hear the 35 hertz test tone, and I can slightly hear the very rolled off 30 hertz tone, but it's weak enough that I'm going to characterize the bass extension in my listening on these speakers down to 35 hertz. So in my listening, I felt the bass and the treble were both very big upside surprises, and I would be totally comfortable labeling what I heard from the Elacs as audiophile grade. But for more listening evaluations, again, I direct you to the 3 links in the description down below of those 3 other reviews that I've already posted. I am a really big fan of these speakers, and I am going to keep this pair on hand as a reference for all of next year. And I'm going to be making all the Standmount speakers under $2,000 show their value prop by side listening against these $450 Titans. Those more expensive speakers are going to have to prove to me that they are worth spending more money than you're going to spend for these Elacs. I'm going to need to hear noticeable sound performance improvement from those more expensive speakers, because I'm going to be comparing them to these Elacs. This is why these Elac Debut 3.0 DB63s are my Speaker of the Year stand mounts for 2024. So congratulations, Elac, winner, stand mount Speaker of the Year 2024 from this channel. To summarize what makes these Elac 3.0 DB63 stand mount speakers so special and the Speaker of the Year, the value prop is simply unmatched. The sound quality is so far above $450 cost, it's astounding. They can hold their own in A/B listening with speakers costing $1,200 to $1,600 in the stand mount range. Mic drop. So congrats to Zoo Audio Dirty Weekend 6 bass model and to the Elac Debut 3.0 DB63 for being my clear winners for Best Speakers of the Year 2024. Congratulations. I want to say thank you for watching. My goal is to help you reach and enjoy your hi-fi happy place. So most definitely, please come back to this channel. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you again on the next video. Bye-bye.